Have you ever wondered why there is a West Virginia and a Virginia? Let's look into the reasons that led to the split of this state. Learning the history of the United States gives us an appreciation of how our ancestors fought for and achieved goals despite seemingly unsurmountable obstacles. I was born and raised in West Virginia and lived there until moving to Tennessee at the age of 13. All of you have been with me to my home state and now share an appreciation for its beauty and ruggedness. The citizens of Western and Northern Virginia did not feel they had a connection with, feel represented politically by, had the same views on slavery as, and were more pro-union than the rest of the state. And these differences led to the creation of the state of West Virginia. Now let's look at each one of these issues individually. The people of Northwestern Virginia wanted to become a state because they did not associate themselves with the rest of the state. According to an article, the Curious Creation of West Virginia in 1997 by Frederickson, Mark Payne is quoted as, "They did not feel tightly connected to the remaining part of the state. Nationality of descendants for each area was part of this reason. The northwestern part of Virginia was settled by Germans, Scottish-Irish, and Welsh, while the eastern part was settled by English. Because of this, citizens of what is now West Virginia felt more connected to northern states than to the eastern part of Virginia. They had the same lineage. Now let's examine why they felt ignored by the rest of the part of the state. People of the north and western part of the state did not feel politically represented and therefore had no voice in state legislature. During this time in America, voting rights were determined by land ownership. Many people in northwestern Virginia did not own enough land to vote, while with the plantations and large farms in the eastern part of the state, many citizens were able to vote. Another voting or representational constraint was the number of slaves in each area. At this time in American history, slaves could not vote, but the number of slaves in each area helped determine the amount of representatives of the state legislature for that area. In the 1997 article by Michael Rickards, Lincoln and the Political Question, the Creation of the State of West Virginia, the population in northwestern Virginia in 1860 was 400,000. This included 18,000 slaves and 3,000 free persons of color. In contrast, at this same time frame, the population of slaves alone in the eastern part of the state was 470,000. And because of this big difference, the eastern part of the state had many more state legislature representatives than the northwestern part. And the beliefs in slavery of each part differ as well. The eastern part of Virginia believed in the use of and relied upon slavery, while the north part did not. The terrain of eastern Virginia, suitable to grow crops, resulted in plantations and many farms. Slaves were used and relied upon to work these farms and plantations. And this is the reason why the eastern part of the state was determined to protect its right to use slavery. The mountainous and hilly terrain of northwestern part of Virginia, in what is now the Appalachian Mountains, did not allow for the creation of large plantations and farms, and therefore slavery was not as common or utilized as much. The issue of slavery, although not the only reason for the creation of the state of West Virginia is the reason that it finally happened. Although the citizens of the western and northern part of Virginia had numerous reasons to want to separate previously, the events that led to the Civil War finally made this dream become a reality. Information in the article, West Virginia Statehood, June 20, 1963, on the website archives.gov reveals these events. First, Virginia, in an attempt to protect its rights to use slavery, proposed to secede from the Union in April of 1861, despite the majority of representatives from the North and the West voting against it. Voters in Virginia ratified this proposal in May of 1861. In June of 1861, pro-Union Virginians, mainly of the North and West, formed the Restored Government of Virginia. Now, this is very important because if the Restored Government of West Virginia had not been officially recognized by the Union, the creation of the state of West Virginia would not be possible. Many political leaders question if the forming of West Virginia was constitutional because the Constitution requires that for a state to be formed from another, the existing state has to give consent. Ricards, in his 1997 article, Lincoln and the Political Question, the Creation of the State of West Virginia, the example of this consent is given when Massachusetts consented to the creation of Maine in 1819. So in August of 1861, the Restored Government of Virginia voted to create the new state of West Virginia. And on June 20th, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln officially proclaimed West Virginia as the 35th state in the United States of America. Now let's recap why West Virginia wanted their own state and the events that led to it. The citizens of what would become West Virginia, they just did not feel a connection with the rest of the state. They did not feel represented politically by or that they had a political voice. They did not rely upon or view slavery the same as the eastern part of the state. And they were much more pro-Union. And when Virginia succeeded from a Union, they really pushed to become their own state. The determination and dedication to the beliefs that these people demonstrated to continue to pursue their wish to become a state and succeeding should be an inspiration to all of us to never give up on your dream.